My name is Hanna Niittymäki, and I am a peace educator by identity and work part-time also at the Peace Committee of Finland. And the next, I tell you that there will be a coffee break after this session. And there was some €5, so it's a different price than there's no tickets. Okay. And now we will have a session that is called Everyone Wants Peace, what kind of activism and work the younger generations consider most important in changing environments. Very long title. But before that, because I used to be a teacher, I usually like to activate people. So we'll have a little practice first, so we'll know more about you. And this goes so that you hear a statement and see it also. And if you agree with the statement, you will stand up. Okay. We'll practice. I am a human being. Great. And then you can immediately go back down. If it's difficult to stand up, you can raise your hand. Noni. First one. I am really worried about the future of the planet. Everybody seems to be, oh no. But I am hopeful about the future of the planet anyhow. Well, hey, more than half, I think. Thank you, great. Then about who is present, I am a researcher.
Depending on the funding.
Maybe a bit more than half. Sit down, please. I am a member of at least one NGO. And now you can show with fingers at how many NGOs you are a member of, if you want. Okay, good. And sit down. And the last one, I am an activist. Not everybody. Okay, that's the aim for today, that everybody is an activist by tomorrow, after the evening party at least. Okay, and then just because here is some people that are not from Finland, just briefly that what kind of peace organizations we have about. There is more, obviously, there is just some here. But these are maybe the biggest one, the Peace Union we heard about, and the Finnish Peace Committee, who's been organizing also this event, and Committee of 100, where... okay. Is there a bad year or something?
The first Peace Union of Finland was founded in 1907.
Yes, I saw that, but I chose this date. Yeah.
It was not legal.
Okay.
During the First World War, and it was re-established in 1920.
Yes, good. Okay, and then there was the Peace Committee, and then Committee of 100, where also my father was included, so I'm like a second-generation peace activist. And then Anti-Militarist Union from 74, and then Peace Education Institute was kind of founded by the other peace organizations. And also this Safer Globe, this think tank, was started with the cooperation with several organizations. And then we have Christian Peace Movement, Artists for Peace Bond, WISE, Women for Peace, WILF, and then there's a big number of these kind of professional peace organizations. Okay, and some youth work that the peace movement does that I know of. The first one is my baby, this Obedience Academy, and then at the Committee of 100 has this Peace Ambassadors program for young people like under 30. And the Church Aid, where Jussi works, has this Changemaker network or project, or maybe we hear more about that. Okay, and that's it. And now I will invite here on the stage Daria Tarkhova. Applause for everybody. Miro Johansson and Jussi Ojala. Niin nyt, joo. Missä se oli se kuva? Okay. Onko se tää? Joo. No niin. Okay, and now I will not talk and you will talk. No niin. I hope we'll have a non-formal conversation and you can comment whatever the other one says. Okay. But I have some starting points here. So first one is, what kind of activist are you, and is it a full-time job or do you do something else? So introduce yourself. Maybe you will start, Daria.
So my name is Daria. The short answer to this would be that I'm Russian, so at this time in the world I really don't have a choice. A longer answer is that I'm activist on paper, and that's maybe something I started with. So I'm writing and also I'm researching. And also during maybe the few last years I've been more involved with also work that happens on the streets, so demonstrations. And very importantly now the Disobedience Academy, where we've been leading this network of young activists. Yes, it is a full-time job.
Hi, my name is Miro Johansson. I'm a member of the Finnish Peace Committee, and I also spent the last year in this Disobedience Academy. And previously I've been part of the Lenons, which is another group of youth like peace activists that you forgot to have on your slide. And it's part of Ahtisaari Days, which is like the Finnish branch of CMI, and like doing school visits and telling about peace work. What was the question?
What kind of activism you do?
Yeah.
Something else also in your life?
In terms of activism, I think I think there's this like stereotype of what an activist is, and I kind of like to break that. Like I don't like to be really like vocal and upfront, more like working behind the scenes. And I'm a graphic designer by like profession, and that's also like what I like to do in my activism.
Hello everybody, so my name is Jussi Ojala and I'm here with the Finnish Christian Peace Association. I think now it's still good time for you to consider whether to kick me out from the panel, because it's a panel of youth and I'm 46-year-old, so it's a bit questionable, but I think I can justify that. But the second point, that you saw the last question there, that do you consider yourself as an activist, and I state I didn't raise myself, but I leave it to you now to think whether I need to be converted or am I qualifying. So I've been though working quite a long time with peace-related issues, but mainly with bigger organizations and official processes, peace mediation, Darfur peace process, United Nations, African Union, Joint Office, European Union, and working with the foreign ministries of Finland and Sweden actually, but that was some time ago. But I think that's hardly activism now, but definitely has relationship with peace.
Professional activism.
But now, since 2008, I've been working with FinChurch Aid. So that is actually my day work, and the honorary job with Finnish Christian Peace Association. Unfortunately, it's not a full-time job, so it's I would maybe answer no to that, even if FCA also is very much working on peace issues.
Yes, I explain Jussi's age that I asked him also because I think we share the same idea that we want to support young people to do things that they feel important. I turned 50 yesterday, so I'm not supposed to be here. The second question was so full that so long that I have to read it from here, my notes. Aika juhlallinen. The world is full of wars and other violent conflicts. We are in the middle of climate emergency. What are the most urgent things you, me, and other people should do to get a more sustainable future?
Should I start?
Okay.
Well, I think the climate crisis is like maybe the biggest, most important thing, at least for me. And there are so many like spillover effects from it that both like relate to existing conflicts and probably will create new ones. But there aren't really, like, at least from my perspective, any easy solution to that. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about our that our current economic and political systems aren't really suitable to solving that, and even when we want to change something, it's like really hard. I think of like Barack Obama as a good example for this, because like whether you like him or not, I don't really think that he got that much done. And I read his book last year, and the way I read it, most of it is him justifying that everything that he did was the best he could do, and the alternative would have been so much worse. And like considering that he was the most like powerful person in the world at that time, it's kind of sad that you can't do more. So like I think we just have to find alliances and work together, because no one, like even the most powerful person, can't do it alone.
Yeah, of course, that's a very good and very complicated question. As we learned from previous panel, and I'm sure everyone knows here, that any kind of ideological, political, even theoretical discussions right now are super difficult. That's why I think the value of the work that happens on grassroots level, practice, solidarity, mutual aid, is extremely important now, and that's where I think people also come together, and that's where we can start maybe rebuilding also those ideological, political and theoretical discussions. So I think that's definitely one solution to that.
Thanks. I would echo the issue of climate change as some of the most crucial issue to address. Nuclear weapons is my equal on that list. And I'm very happy for those actors and organizations who have been able to do some activism on both of these. I think there are good examples, and we as a Peace Association have done our little part in the nuclear weapons part by giving out our annual Peace Prize the other year to the Costa Rican ambassador, Ambassador White. So, but those are really issues that need to be tackled. But I'm maybe, let's see if I'm answering the question, but I was raising up in the optimism part. I think there is much hope, and there should be hope, and that brings back to the kind of the theme of the panel, the youth. I think there is so much potential in the youth that this brings the optimism, but also this is the current challenge that I see in the whole peace movement, that glorious history. What an opportune time currently. Read the YLE, the National Broadcasting poll like 1.5 weeks ago. 81% of the people answering think that peace is the most precious thing for them, even more precious than the health of their own health or the health of their near ones. I think it's incredible. Peace is number one. Of course, the Russia's war in Ukraine, this explains much of it, but still, this is really a time to press on peace issues, and hopefully we can have the chance now to press the button that how can we support the youth in this operation, because you are the future.
Can I add there that I didn't stand up on the same question, and like one reason I think is maybe going back to what Sixi said in the end of the last panel, that activism doesn't require intelligence, and I think that's really like common argument, but it's like super dismissive, because then you often don't have to participate in honest debate on the topic. Like for example, we remember Greta Thunberg's message that we should listen to scientists instead of her, but then like she gets dismissed. So yeah.
Yeah, I also have one comment to add. So how we should act, I've been thinking about it a lot, because my work has a lot to do with Russia and Russian civil society, and after February it got a lot more difficult. And I think it's very important as a peace movement to also choose those political momentums to act. And I think that's also something that has came through my fellow panelists here and also the previous panel, those momentums when we should act. And now is time to, I think, one thing we can do is to support the Kurdish community, the Kurdish movement that really has suffered because of the Finland and Sweden's agreement with NATO. So I think it's really important to also stand as a community and show our support to them, and not get overwhelmed by this war only because it's happening in Europe.
Can I add something? Yes. Tarja Kronberg raised earlier a great point about like that we can't end wars without diplomacy, and I think that's also like really important to remember. Like I think it's Martti Ahtisaari's and CMI's like kind of like ideology that regardless of how bad some like leader or any person is, that if they have power and authority, we have to bring them to like the negotiation table. But at the same time, we have to involve like the whole society. They can't only be like old men who sit at the table, but also like we need representation of all ages and genders.
Let's see if I'm contributing the same topic, but one issue on my mind relates to this. Maybe Sixi, it was you who mentioned about the hypocrisy, Russia's war in Ukraine, and how now everything is on the news and table that could have been and should have been so much earlier. And while I agree on this. But then I see that there is, past decades have seen quite a nice movement on human rights, for example. I'm always saying that the biggest thing that has happened in my professional career is the rights-based approach, that I understand what's the meaning of human rights and what should I as an actor or organization do in the setting of duty bearers and rights holders and so on. And my worry currently is that these good work, kind of structural work that needs a lot of patience, like human rights, I think now, or good governance, these need to be pressed currently even stronger than they have been before. But these are somehow out of the radar or perhaps being discredited even. And while I'm actually interested in engaging in discussion that how can we keep this momentum and even strengthen it currently.
Then I was supposed to ask about Mike. You're closer. Yeah. About you, Daria. You do research yourself. You are about to do your doctoral thesis. You could maybe enlighten a bit the topic. I'm sure people would be interested in, since it's about a very current issue in Russia. Well, I believe a lot in activism, and I think that every good change in the world has started with some kind of activism, and sometimes the changes are low, but like everything that we have achieved, somebody started the movement. But now here are a lot of researchers, and sometimes I think that the researchers that stay in their own rooms and they don't know what's going on in the world around them. This is a stereotype, obviously. But as an activist, what kind of research we need so that there will be more peace, more cooperation, more better diplomacy, less polarization? What do we want from the researchers, except you, also from you, obviously?
Okay, so yeah, I'm about to start my doctoral research in political geography that has to do with Russian speakers in Finland, their geographical imaginations, and how the war in Ukraine and the decision to join NATO of Finland has affected that. That's the plan, but we'll see how it shapes along when I actually start working on it. But what kind of research we need? Well, I'm sure researchers know that themselves, and especially the ones who are here. But I think the question is rather how should we communicate, how the researchers and the organizations and even activists who work individually, how we should communicate in a way that we understand each other and in a way that we can build up on each other's work. And I think that's something we are developing now in this seminar, and hopefully will continue to do so also after.
Well said. Yeah, I agree with that. It's always bad for, like, I don't know, outsiders to say that this kind of research should be done. But then, now more than ever, maybe peace and conflict research is important. And in terms of tackling the climate crisis, anything in the natural sciences and technology that can help. I don't probably believe that it's gonna be a solution in the short term, but definitely in the longer term that's needed. But at the moment, I also think that polarization in our societies and all things with information wars and disinformation is a problem. So anything that can help get us more aligned to focus on the real challenges could be good.
I am a big advocate and fan for being evidence-based, and maybe now I'm talking more of my development agency, Finchurch Aid hat on, that I've seen through that work that how that resonates kind of long term, that you are not operating on a gut feeling or your own experience only, but really you base on what you suggest on research, and then you go back to the research after you've done your project. And I don't know if this can be generalized, but I think this is happening more now than I'm not alone who is somehow excited about this. And it's a totally different way of doing, maybe it's development studies, and others can advise on the peace studies, what's the linkage there. But I think this is happening, and you know, I've done my own modest part in this by switching hats, so it's quite intriguing then to try to be a researcher and try to do research, which then leads to, I don't know, activism, but something like project-based, which has relevance to peace. And I'm sure I'm not alone, but please you tell me. I feel there is a kind of growing momentum on the evidence-based, understanding the value. It's a quality issue, a credibility issue, but it kind of supports itself.
Yeah, like going back to my earlier point, I think, like, of course there are like activists and all different kinds of like opinions, but I think activism also works kind of like the same way as research, that if something that doesn't get momentum, maybe there's something wrong with the like the thought, and you can't gain a large support on something that doesn't really align with reality or with what's good.
Yeah, I was thinking more about this practical work kind of thing, and I remembered talking earlier this summer with a Ukrainian feminist activist that was talking about a manifesto in Ukraine called The Right to Resist, that was an answer to another feminist manifesto that had another point of view on resistance to Russian invasion. This is a long topic that we can talk about later, but I remember something they said very vividly, that sometimes people who are the ones we should hear the most, they don't have time to sit down and write a manifesto, for instance. They don't have time to write in Twitter or any kind of ideological contribution. So that's why I think it's very important to stress this point of solidarity and concrete aid, because there maybe we can also hear from the people that don't have the time to write their view up on the internet.
I wonder, could I bit challenge those peace researchers, especially in the room, because my baby is mentoring currently, mentoring from existing kind of established peace movement organizations that were presented to the youth peace movements in Finland and beyond. I think there's a wealth of knowledge and experience that should be poured somehow to the youth. But the big revelation for me lately has been, and this is very trivial, I'm sure you know it, the youth don't want to be an object, but they are active, and they want to be active, and they have all the capacities. So the mentoring actually happens two-way, from both ways. And but I'm sure there is a linkage now to the peace research, that how this can materialize. And I think also in this room we have many traditional peace movement participants, we have youth here, but there needs to be mentoring. This is my hope.
Okay. Does anyone want to ask something from these lovely people here? Ei, vielä kahvia. Kahvi voi odottaa nyt pari minuuttia.
Thanks. Hello. My name is Camilla Marukko and I'm here as a person doing research and activism in migration and undocumentedness related issues. It's great to be here with so many inspiring people. Thanks, everybody. I was thinking that it's not a question, but a way to connect. That when we said, you asked, for example, Hanna, if I remember correctly, like what kind of research is needed, how can we keep the dialogue going on? If you're interested, one possible place where we can have this dialogue, and as people, one doesn't need to be an activist, a researcher, or if they understand themselves to be as such, that's enough for us. If you want to have this dialogue, one possible place is the Activist Research Network. It was founded by Leonardo Custodio, my colleague, a few years ago, and now since 2018 we have been coordinating it together. It's in the form on an email list, and I can spread the information to us, but basically it's a space by which we organize events, dialogue sessions, conference sessions, seminars, and so, in which we all, from our different disciplines, career stages, as students, as researchers, activists, artists, just people, try to discuss together like how to do, especially research, which is societally and politically aware and ethical, and which can foster social change, but also like how to keep this dialogue up. So I think across genders, like you mentioned, across racial positions, across in Finland and beyond Finland. So please feel free to reach out. I'll be around today and tomorrow, and I'll try to spread the info to everybody. Thanks a lot.
Great. Yes, and we'll change our contact info, and I will spread your contact to everybody who is here. Great. Yes. We will all join.
It's amazing network, so
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much. My name is Tiina Seppälä, and I would like to ask you about some potential tensions between the generations within the peace movement. So as we've seen from other social movements, and we'll probably always see the same dynamics. So from the younger generation, new radical, more transformative critical ideas emerge. And I think that with Elokapina, so we've seen something new coming up. So just in the context of the peace and anti-war movement, so what is, in your view, something that the older generation of peace activists and anti-war activism and movement organizers should change or transform?
Yeah, thank you so much for this question. A great one. I have an example from actually this fall when I took part in a peace seminar in Norway, and there one of the speakers was expressed extremely transphobic opinions and homophobic opinions. And I challenged the speaker, but they really confirmed their opinions, and it was this kind of, you know, trans-exclusive radical feminist kind of opinion. And most of the participants in the seminar, they clapped at the speech as if it was nothing. And we followed up together with the women in, sorry, I never remember the full name of the organization, but Women in Peace, WILP. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And the Finnish Peace Committee. And we did this Zoom training on the how this gender diversity and gender and sexual minorities. What do they have to do with peace movement? Because this is where we need to start. And of course, this is not enough. We have to follow up, we have to follow through, we have to do more. And another topic that's equally like this is anti-racism and anti-racism in peace movement. And there we also have to start with the basics. What does the color of the skin has to do with peace movement? Why are we mostly white people here? And things like that. And that's where also I think the organizational work, the activists and the researchers need to come together.
I don't know if I have anything to add to that. Like one thing I could say is, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it feels like there's maybe like a generational gap that has caused that many of like the debates have been like sort of settled previously, and then the youth could have like the possibility to change things up a bit, and yeah, that's maybe an upcoming thing.
Somehow the perspective that empowering the youth would be away from others, the traditional peace movement, for example, I think this is something we all need to, if anyone is having it, has to get rid of it. And I think it really can be a two-way street, kind of win-win. And I think there are both sides, you know, from traditional peace movement and youth. There are people who are really eager to engage this. It's not easy, but go with those who are already running, and I think the others will join.
Yeah. And while we are empowering the youth, we have to kind of, depower ourselves, the old people maybe, because the future is theirs and not ours, so we have to stop bossing. Karim, juokseeko se vielä mikin kanssa? Tuossa oli Roni vielä eka ja sitten Tapio.
Just good example, you have all white panel and you have the only Arab here giving you the mic, so just a, you know.
Yeah, that was good, a good point. Yeah, my name is Roni Järvi. I'm a church historian, but more into peace research, I'd say, and been a peace activist since like 2017. And like a really interesting thing in Johansson that has been is that I've mostly been with old people like over 50, often like so that over 60. And what I've learned is that I've learned the value of the tradition, like that long tradition that they have experienced and lived through since like the 60s. And at some point I'm noticing that I don't know this tradition, and this is a huge problem. And a good example of that is, for example, we were in one bar, Sointula, and we had this peace singing night. You remember that, Raisa, where we were together and we were singing, and the whole bar was full of people, and there were so many peace songs that had been written since like the 1920s and the 1930s, and I knew like 3 of them, and I've been in the peace movement for like 5 years then. So I think that's a problem. Yes, the youth must bring new things into the peace movement, but we cannot forget the tradition, all those different kind of rituals and all those songs that keep us as a community and like create some kind of identity. We have this national identity, but what about our like peace activist identity? Do we nurture it, for example, through singing together or doing this kind of things. So it's not only about the intellectual tradition. And in this sense, I'm critical towards peace research. We have been emphasizing too much on research, and we need to remember art and songs and music and paintings and all these different things, and that way we need to find each other again, also with research and art and by doing these different demonstrations. And yeah, it's a really holistic picture we have to build together in the peace movement. Yeah, that's it. No, I can take it myself. Yeah. So who was the? Yeah, Kalevi. Yeah, great.
Thank you. I do agree with everything that you said, but it was Ojala who mentioned mentoring. And I thought that I would like to contribute in mentoring a little bit. After the war, after the Second World War, we here in Finland learned that security policy has two aspects. There is the defense policy, and there is foreign policy. This was actually the wisdom that we had during 40s, during 50s, during 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Now everything has changed. Almost everybody thinks now, or at least media thinks, that this is an old lesson. There is only defense that is important. We are in a terrible situation now. But what should the peace researchers do? That was one of the questions. They should widen this perspective so that there are actually two different discourses about peace. The other discourse is leaning to deterrent and arms. The other discourse is leaning to cooperative institutions. People they have forgot it, or they have never learned this. And I think that perhaps the most important thing that the peace research should do now is to educate people in understanding the cooperative security policy that not only Finland needs, but the whole world needs. Finland among the other states. I think this is perhaps the most important issue right now.
Okay, thank you, Kalevi. Laura wants to say something, and that will be the last saying before coffee. Say something hopeful.
Yes, it's hopeful. I have been so long time with us, so I know even these older peace activists here in the hall, and I would say that they have all been taken their place by kind of taking over organization. So even Kalevi was young activist sometimes, and he came and tried to take over some peace organization which he felt was a little bit too old-fashioned, and then he made a new one when the old didn't disappear from the old one. And that's actually true for many here in this room. So what I will say is not to wait for, there is not kind of service organization selling peace services for young people to come and we don't sit and invent how you would be happy to come and be active in peace movement, but you should kind of take over the peace organizations and do what kind of peace activism you want, and you are the peace movement then. So it's not a kind of selling services action, this peace movement work. That was my kind of hopeful ending, that you can take over the peace organizations.
No, it was hopeful, since we believe in these younger generations. Now coffee, thank you.